Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to a Breaking News Rangers podcast. We're here to discuss Patrick Stewart speaking to RTV and outlining a number of things in a 13-minute interview, which is highly worth going to check out. If you have not seen it, we're going to run through what is two or three major talking points from it. I'm joined by Kenny Stewart and Davie Herd this afternoon. First things first, Patrick Stewart was asked about Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup and how he reflects on it. Boys, he referred to it as a source of shame for the football club. David, we waited a week for somebody, or over a week for somebody to acknowledge it. He did acknowledge it, and we'll come to what he said next, but a source of shame isn't light words for a CEO to come out with.
No, I think of all the things that Patrick Stewart said in that interview today, then that was probably the most accurate sentence he came out with. I don't think there's any doubt that it was a historic result in all the wrong ways, and it was something that the support, the club, the manager, the board, everyone associated with Rangers Football Club should have a deep sense of humiliation about. And it's good to see the man at the top acknowledging that fact.
Kenny, I would agree with what Davie says there. It's calling it a source of shame isn't, as I said, light words from the very man at the top, the CEO. He is running this football club now, and that isn't to be taken lightly.
No, and it's, as Davie has said, it's about as strong as, a reaction to it as you could get from a CEO. And to be fair, he is right. It is a source of shame. It's guys like us that are having to go and, go to work and suffer the embarrassment of it over the last week or so. And it is a source of shame. There's just no getting away from it. And to be fair to him, at least somebody's acknowledged it, and at least somebody's turned around and said that it's not acceptable and that we really should be embarrassed and humiliated by it, because we are as fans, and it's at least it's being acknowledged by the club. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah, I would agree. He was then asked, and it was quite a forthright question for RTV, and it's not a criticism because it's the club official channel, but they ask him, David, why a week later is Philip Clement still in a job? And the answer to that is interesting. He says, we have underperformed as a club for several seasons now, and that's not down to the manager. We've changed the manager, and it's not made a difference. I don't want to take a step that would put further progress in the Europa League at risk, so that's another reason for why we continue to keep Philippe in the role. I've said this before, I'm not here to make popular decisions and quick wins. So that was his statement, or more or less what he said about Philippe Clement and why he wouldn't replace him. The biggest thing being, I'm not here to make popular decisions and quick wins. He said he was going to be extremely disciplined in the decisions he makes and sticking to the plan. This board aren't going to be wavered by any sort of pressure towards Philip Clement. He's here to stay.
That's certainly the impression you get from that. I would say he's definitely not a man that's quoting popularity, because that was probably the most unpopular part of his interview. I would imagine there's probably Rangers supporters up and down the country shaking their heads in disbelief or in disagreement with what he said there. I know he also said about sacking a manager, it would not be a financial thing. The Rangers aren't in a position that money would stop them sacking a manager, is what he said. But I think that's a little bit at odds with then talking about the Europa League, because I think the Europa League's a big money spinner. I think he didn't want to do anything that risked the income from that, is what I got from that. So I think there's maybe a little bit of a mixed message for me there. But I'll say the same as I've said all the way through this, which is that they can be sticking to the plan as much as they like, but I still think some short-term bad results might make it that they're going to have to rethink that plan.
Kenny, he says, I've got to keep real discipline and focus on making sure that we're making the right decisions in the right order for the long benefit of the club, and not knee-jerk reacting to what was frankly a disastrous result. I'm not trying to duck from that, but we've got to stick to the plan. To be clear, we're all judged on results, myself, Philippe, so there's no free passes here, but we are sticking to the plan, and I'm going to be incredibly disciplined about that because we've not always been that in the past.
Yeah. The only issue I'm going to take with that right away is that Philip Clement isn't being judged on results, because if he was being judged on results, he wouldn't be here, Stevie. Any other Rangers manager in my lifetime wouldn't be here after the sequence of results we've had this season, culminating in last week's humiliation. But listen, I kind of understand what he's trying to say. That he's just in the job, he's doing this review, he's got a long-term kind of strategy that he wants to put in place. Whether, you know, he says that he's going to be judged on results, but unfortunately for him, at a club like ours, you're getting judged immediately, despite what you want to do long term. It's the here and now that matters to us, and you know, it's well documented that the majority of Rangers fans would like to see Philip Clement depart the football club. So whether he likes it or not, the pressure, I think, is kind of on him already, and perhaps that's why he has felt the need to come out and say something today, because at the end of the day, the pressure is on this manager, the pressure is on these players, and ultimately, if they seem to not be doing anything, Stevie, then the pressure is going to get put on him and the chairman. And for me personally, that's what I'm taking out of that he's saying that we're all going to be judged on results. Well, Philip Clement isn't being judged on results. Philip Clement has been given a free pass that he says nobody's getting. Well, and this is just my personal opinion, it's not the opinion of everybody else. I don't see it that way. I feel that he's genuinely... he just wouldn't be here if it was at any other point in my lifetime anyway. So I don't really know what to make of those comments, to be honest.
I will add, the reason why he spoke today is to give us an update on the review. He said he will not speak to the support and he will not comment on every bad result because that's not his responsibility. And to be quite honest, the amount of bad results we've had, he would never be able to get anything done. What he did go on to say is, and this is quite important, lads, it's what I consider to be, and what we've discussed as being the second most critical point, and that is that he has identified from the review and speaking to people the need to appoint a new sporting director. David, he says, we've identified the need to appoint somebody that has got responsibility for the entire football operations throughout the club. So we're now in the market for a sporting director. And that role will put somebody right at the top of the football tree, an experienced football person at the top of the tree that will be responsible for all aspects of the football club. It's a big appointment. And when you consider Neil Coppin was put in as technical director, and we'll discuss this in a minute with Kenny, but what's your thought on a potential new sporting director?
I think that maybe it's an age thing, but I sometimes struggle with these business announcements and structural reorganisations and things. I'm not 100% clear on how it all divides out. I know he wanted to sort of try and explain it a bit by what Niels Coppin would still be responsible for. So he talked about player trading, recruitment. He also talked about when the best time to sell players was, which is part of this whole player trading model, both for the men's and women's teams. So if Niels Coppin's doing that, which is a huge part of the football operation, and then Philip Clement's the team manager, and he's responsible for the training of the team, he's responsible for the results on the pitch. I'm just not 100%. If you take the team away and you take player trading and contracts and recruitment away, what else is there that you need this big director job? What actually is it responsible for? And although he mentioned something about the medical side of it, which didn't sound as if it fell to any of those other two. So there's one thing I know is going to be part of this new sporting director role, but it just feels to me a little bit like this, you know, the old joke about rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic. It feels like that at the moment to me, maybe because I don't fully understand it. And at a time when we're all, when morale's in the floor when it comes to how Rangers are performing, then it does feel a bit as your first priority really to put another executive in and give them lots of money, because I'm just not sure what all the different how it all dovetails together. Maybe that's because I just don't understand it very well at the moment because it's only just been announced. But at the moment, it just feels as if we've created another role, which I'm not 100% sure how it all fits together.
Interesting. I mean, I think that's fair. There's a point in me, Kenny, that thinks maybe we've just put somebody in because Neil's coping isn't coping the way we thought he would, and two, just to babysit a wee bit. And this is what he says on Neil's coping. He says, Neil's is somebody I rate really highly, but the sporting director will complement his role because it will allow him to focus on what he was hired to do, which is to recruit players. In a wider context, also manage squad planning and also the player trading model that's been often referred to. So this will give him breathing space to do that and really complement and give him the ability to do that. Here's my issue, right? Here's my issue. He was doing all that before he was promoted, right? And that was great. And we all said, look, this is really good and we understand what he's doing, etc. This is almost like, and I may be way off here, it's almost like a backhanded demotion, because they basically said to him, just you concentrate on the stuff you were doing before, but you'll keep your title as director, and we're bringing in a sporting director who will oversee all the other wee bits that you were supposed to do but are now not doing them because we want you just to concentrate on what you were doing before. And I am, look, everybody knows me, Kenny. I'm very happy and not a cynical person at all. But it does come across a wee bit like that. And I can't help but say I would rather be honest and just try and say what I'm thinking with regard to that move.
No, listen, I actually tend to agree with you up to a point. What I would suggest is that see when he got promoted to technical director, I presumed that was just another name for the sporting director. So I'm like Davie, I have no idea what these guys all do and how you streamline these jobs and put them in brackets. I have no idea what a technical director is now, because as far as I was aware that he was getting a promotion, which was effectively to become a different term, but a sporting director. But he's not. Apparently, he's a technical director. I have no idea what that is. But where I would go with this, though, is exactly what you've just said. That having viewed his comments there, it does sound like it's almost like a way you go and do the job that you were actually doing before we promoted you. Because I have no idea what he's been doing thereafter. Then, if they're telling, from becoming the technical director, I'm sure the guy's been doing stuff. That's not what I'm insinuating. What I mean is that if he needs somebody else to help him, so they work in tandem, if you like, then what is it he's doing just now that they feel they need somebody else to come in and do that sporting overall view? So it now means that he will have somebody in charge of him effectively, and overseeing what he's doing, where he's been the one that's been overseen. So it is reality. In reality, it is a little bit of a demotion. And on the face of it, I'm not suggesting it, just on the face of it, that's what it looks like to me. And if I was Neil's Coppin, I wouldn't be particularly impressed. I've got to be honest, as an individual. Now, whether he's done a good job or not is open to debate amongst Rangers fans and everybody else. But the simple fact is that when you analyse those comments from Patrick Stewart, it's actually left me again with, and this football club's got a real habit of doing this. When they say things or they do things, they leave me with more questions than answers. And I'm a little bit confused by that particular comment. Do I think we need a sporting director? Yes, probably. Did we have a sporting director up until a couple of years ago? Did he do a good job? No. So, you know, it's round and round.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult not to listen to those comments and read more into it for Niels Coppin than it actually is. But as we move on, he finishes it up, boys, by saying he expects external support on the review to taper down, but as a football review, it will never end. It's about constant evolution. And he says there's going to be further actions that will be implemented, and some of those we will share with the supporters in the coming weeks and months as they emerge. He says, for the supporters' point of view, he's taken tangible steps to ensure success. And basically, it's going to be tough. We don't want to shy away from that. But he wants to be clear, by success, he means winning and not coming second. But this is a long road, and it's about getting the foundation stones correct. The two biggest takeaways is Clement is not going anywhere anytime soon, and they are sticking to a plan rigidly, and a sporting director will be appointed. 13 minutes interview was, folks. You can watch it on Rangers Television with Patrick Stewart, our CEO. Davie Herd, thank you for joining us. Much appreciated you popping in.
My pleasure, mate. Anytime.
And Kenny, also, thank you very much. Kenny, do you know why I was sniggering just as you were speaking there? I suddenly looked up and thought, three of us are a magnificent head of hair between us. And I caught myself giggling a wee bit, and I just thought, we're in for some ribbon when people see this. But what can you do? Not quite the Mitchell brothers. It's like Mitchell brothers and one
Mitchell
other.
Triplets or something like that, isn't it? It's very bald on here on the screen, isn't it? But I'm proud of it. Very proud of it. That was good. Enjoyed that. And very interesting wee interview from Patrick Stewart, wasn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's plenty in there, folks, for you to go and enjoy. Please do check out the interview on RTV. We'll try and put a link in the description as well. But for that, we'll be back at the end of the week with the weekend podcast. We'll be back on Saturday as well with Match Day Vlog, and you'll see us magnificent, follically challenged heads of, I don't know, can't be heads of hair, can it? But anyway, we're away. Catch you soon. Patrick Stewart, Philip Clement, Davie Herd, Kenny Stewart, Stevie Clifford. Not a speckle between us. On that note, I'll see you all later.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.